It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. It is now 2 o'clock, and we will hold our Board of County Commissioners special workshop. We will have an invocation led by Commissioner Harvey, followed by a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Newbold. Please stand if you're able to do so.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, a day we've never experienced before in our life. Lord, we ask that you just watch over this workshop meeting, give us guidance directly from your throne room, give us inspiration. Let us talk freely, Father, with each other and our audience today, Father. Lord, let us just put everything on the table and move Putnam County forward as we can do today. Father, we thank you that we can call upon you in this great country, in this great state that we live in. And Lord, we just thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. We will have a public comment time in just a moment, but before I get started, what we will do, gentlemen, is we're gonna, this isn't formal, it is a workshop, but I do want to have some semblance of organization. So the buttons still work. Let's try not to interrupt each other and that kind of stuff if we can keep from doing that. Public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak regarding public comments? Do you have anything, Miss Debbie? All right. And of course, we can have some other time for that as well. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak right now? Okay. The first item for business is the Information Technology Office relocation. As you know, this has been brought up at the dais, and we've asked staff to do their best to give us what informations and concerns they have, and also whatever concerns or information we have as elected officials. So is there anybody who wants to start off with this?
Are you looking for staff to start? Or are you looking for your board?
We'll start with board. You have, Mr. Commissioner?
Sure, let's get the party started. You know, we were, I think we've all been down to the IT office. You know, my background is in mechanical contracting, maintenance, HVAC. The first time I traveled to the IT office, there were definitive concerns when I walked in regarding the air quality, mold remediation. I saw, you know, I think at the time there were still buckets on the floor collecting water, and we have very sensitive computers and electronics located in their area, much less very valuable employees too. So I think that we need to address that issue as to whether or not we want to repair that facility, which I know now, talking to Mr. Grimes, that the roof is repaired, but there was an issue. Somebody decided it was a good idea to put a plastic water bottle in one of the vents, which didn't help. But there's definitely an issue there, and that's the purpose of this meeting, is to find a direction on what we want to do. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to open the floor to my other commissioners, see what your opinions are, and also talk to staff and get their opinion and determine the direction for this department, and then we'll move on to another one.
All right. I'll go ahead with you, Ms. Julianne, before we move forward. I know you were about to have some comments. You're good.
Commissioner, just as a general, as board direction, we met with IT, who kind of gave a comprehensive overview of the complexities of what is needed for that division. It's obviously much more than just a clerical division based on the amount of equipment and the number of agencies that they support through that equipment. So when we talk about relocation department for that particular division, it's not just the people, but also the components and systems that go with them or are needed to be supported by them. So, and this has not been a new conversation. We've been kind of discussing this for a number of years, and we've made some steps already in transitioning some of that infrastructure. But there is some remaining infrastructure. Mr. Ritchie was not able to be here today. He's under the weather. But I did include in the packet his commentary on both page 4 and 5 and 6, as well as his most recent update, which is simply that even though we'd love to transition over, we can certainly transition staff, but fully vacating that premises is gonna be very, very complex for them. So there are just some complexities to think about with that particular division. I'm happy to guide you through any other questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Harvey, you recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I think this is a long time coming. Been here a long time, and we've been talking about renovating these areas. I think this is a good move for us to be looking at. Do want to be mindful, though. I think we're going to eat the apple one bite at a time, right?
Right.
And we're only going to be able to take probably small bites as we can afford to do it.
Yep.
But I think we need to have a long-term plan as we go down this road for all of our buildings throughout the county. I think this is not the easy lift, but it's the first bite that we really need to take. And I'm looking forward to what it would take to make that Pantry Pride building, if you will, functional for IT and for veterans. So I am looking forward to the conversation. Again, we got a lot of planes in the air. We got a lot of promises out there. Keep in mind that Better Place Plan does run out in a few years, so that's our 1 cent sales tax. If the public doesn't vote that back in, we have some financial obligations that are still on the hook for that. So we just need to be mindful of that as we go forward. But this commissioner is all about fixing those two departments and putting them in that building. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Palatka, you're recognized.
For those of you who have never been in the IT department, I'm going to keep all these comments focused on that area. That is just a really confined area. There's just no room to move up there to do anything, and let alone, I'm sure expansion one day has got to happen in that area, and there's nowhere to expand it I could see up there. So I think it's imperative that we make whatever space we need to make, and as Commissioner Harvey said, biting the apple off one piece at a time. I understand because of the financial constraints of it, but we definitely this needs to move forward if any way possible with getting them the space they need plus some room to grow into. And if we can do that, I think we're definitely moving the county forward and doing good works. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I want to make sure that that you all have taken the time to read this attachment. It does talk in there regarding the relocation project and the fact that the IT department had looked at 4 spaces. One was the old health department space. One actually the board behind the board chambers, suite 700 and suite 550. And then he goes on in here to discuss some of the challenges with each one of those discussions about relocation. With that, go ahead, Commissioner Alexander.
We can agree that, as a consensus, that the IT department needs to be moved or needs to be renovated. So that, we've established that across the
believe
board?
so.
Okay.
Without doubt.
So now we just need to figure out which one, choice A, B, C, or D, that we do. And the options that were presented all leave, to me, some room for discoverables and some unanswered questions that we won't be able to get a value on until we actually get midway through that project. While I love the idea of renovating the spaces down here, I also am entertaining the idea of building new facilities because we have a finite cost of what it took us to build the animal control shelter as well as the solid waste facility out there. Both of those, correct me if I'm wrong, were in the $300,000 to $400,000 range.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And so it brings to light an interesting point that, as we've discussed before, once we get over the 50% threshold in accommodation of this building, we have to update the entire fire sprinkler system.
Yes,
So,
I'll wait for my turn.
so we need to figure out what our total cost is going to be on one option versus another. And if this involves, I know last time we talked about, we're not going to get a contractor to bid on it unless they give us, unless we give them the contract or whatever. Well, I would rather spend $10,000 or whatever the cost is to get a firm price so that we can make an accurate determination of whether, this is the way to go or that's the way to go. But we know what it costs to build those 2 buildings. we need a good summation of what it's gonna cost here. Do we have structurally deficient walls, roof, other things that we may encounter that aren't visible now? And they're gonna push us over that threshold in addition to the fire sprinkler system, so we can spend $10,000 and not make $1 million mistake. So I don't know what the cost would be to have that inspected, but I do know what it cost us to build those other two buildings. There's been discussion about the electrical service. It's down on that end of the building. So if we looked at demolishing those buildings, then we have to talk about redoing the entire electrical system for the facility. So there's a lot of variables in there. But I do know that if we took some of the vacant area, or even where the old First Federal building is, and we put a new structure in there, it's gonna be $300,000 to $400,000, correct? So we know what that cost is gonna be. And based on what you said, or what we discussed earlier, we're talking $200 a square foot for renovation. Because a lot of people, what they neglect to think about when you do a renovation such as this, you pay for not quite twice the labor because you're tearing it down, then you gotta put it back up. So your cost, it seems like it might be cheaper on the front end. There's some additional stuff in there that may come up that push your costs higher than what they could have been on a new facility that we can build to cater to that group. And anytime you take and modify a facility to fit a need versus building something that is, structurally exactly what this group needs, somebody's gonna have to make a compromise. Somebody's not gonna get what they need to do their job correctly. So those are the things that I'm looking at.
Commissioner Palatka, you're recognized.
Commissioner Wilkerson, I heard you say that here behind us was a possible location that
They had considered it.
they had considered. I don't know what the square footage is in there, but somewhere, and I've read 5,000 square feet was a request, and I may be getting that tangled up with the Veteran Affairs. I don't know if I am or not. I've read so much. But anyhow, one thing we could be very mindful about, if this was adequate and we move back here, you're not tripping the threshold of your sprinkler system area, and that whatever that might be that would cause us a problem. So that would be an added plus to putting it here, if that's not going to be in our way in the future, or the commissioner's way. So I don't know what all stored or done back here, so I would refer to somebody that knows more about it than I. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thought that, that's a good comment. Go ahead, Mr. Grimes.
So, sorry, spoke with Mr. Wadeson just a little bit ago, and trying to figure out where some of these trigger points are gonna be, right? We spoke about the area next to veterans currently, and so we can keep this kind of in mind. We're going to have to put a roof over top of the supervisor of elections, because that's the one area of this building that didn't get completed. So that roof is going to have to be redone over top of that one. So that's going to be another project on top of the remodel space. But we did talk with Mr. Wadeson, and of his opinion, and of course he's here in the room with us now, so he could absolutely correct me if I was wrong, was that he was not totally against us being able to do a like-for-like exchange of working in the office next door to veterans, and also, I'm gonna get them wrong, the 700, the 550, whatever is on the far end that has been occupied in the last little bit. The minute that we encroach into that 19,000 square feet is what's gonna trigger it. Into the pantry, I think y'all are referring to it as the pantry pride section, because we're right at the trip point today, right? There is no, can we take 3,000 square foot off of the pantry pride building? It's the minute we go in there, we're going to retrofit the entire complex. Of course, in his code, it does not reference fire suppression. It's in the fire code. So I'm going to tell you, if I was the fire marshal at the time, and I did have a background in that, I do not view the supervisor of elections and where veterans is as a separate building. Because in our book, the veteran, it says you have to have physical separation. And with a canopy in between them is not physical separation. That means that we have a common roof between the two buildings. But if he allows it underneath his code for us to, I think we can get through there as long as we don't approach the 19,000 square foot pantry pride. The minute we do, that's when we're going to do this building. We're going to do this behind us. We're going to do the entire complex at that point.
So is it your opinion that the building next, the old bank building, I guess, that's completely separate?
The bank building, yes, ma'am. The old First Coast Community Credit Union front part was absolutely
It's separate for
separate.
evaluation purposes as well?
Now, I can't speak to that.
Because I thought the
property
percentage
appraiser's
was
here.
based on evaluation is it not
We've,
based?
we've already tripped that. We tripped that when we added this portion of the building on because you can only do so many remodels, right? So this portion of the building was part of that threshold back in the day, right? When we remodeled this, what you're currently sitting in and the pieces next door eat up that 50%. And when I talked to Mr. Wadeson, he kind of walked us through that, and that's where his opinion finally lied.
Okay, so I guess my question is, the bank building has no effect on it one way or the other?
No, ma'am, because you have physical separation, because it's over 10 feet. That's a whole separate structure than this one.
Okay, okay. Commissioner Harvey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So following along with Commissioner Alexander's point, remodel versus new, and the optics of us building new and still having old, let's go with that for just a second. Would it be better for us to build new and then tear down for separation purposes, that we don't have to ever have this conversation again? Or would it just be better, because we don't want to trip the threshold of sprinklers, but sprinklers are there for a reason, right? They're there to protect the public and our employees. So would it be better for us to do the whole complex and be in protection, or tear down some buildings and create some space and build a new one? And I think that's the questions that are floating in my mind after what I heard Commissioner Alexander say. So, and what I'm hearing you talk about, is maybe there needs to be a redesign, if you will. And maybe we got land, we know that, so we could easily do something, but maybe a redesign like that, because it would be hard for me to justify building a new building and leaving these old buildings sitting there unoccupied. Because people would say, why don't you just, they're not going to understand fire suppression and all that. They're not going to get that. So I think that's the talk we need to have too, is what are the pros and cons here, Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I will say, when we looked at the IT department, we were looking at the 2 suites that had been previously used. We were not, as far as I knew, we've never talked about moving into the 19,000 square feet of what we call the old pantry pride. It would have been either the part that's at the very end for the sheriff's office, or where the sheriff's office was at one time, or the old laundromat, right?
Well, not the laundromat. It
Okay.
would have been the hair salon, but, and that's part of the value of our workshop today. I think there were a lot of different ideas by a lot of independent people that are trying to look for solutions.
Right.
So it was kind of all over the board as to what was being looked at. And so that's what we're looking for you guys to give us your preference on.
What is the square footage of suite 500, 550?
I'm gonna tell you roughly 2,000 of 500 and somewhere in there, 550, you're talking the old sheriff's
You're saying
visitation.
2,500? You saying 2,550?
Yeah, the sheriff's office is significantly smaller. Where the sheriff's office calls, the visitation section it was quite significantly smaller. It's going to be around 2,500 square feet. I think the other one was right around 4,000, where the old laundromat was.
And
I
that's
think
the
really close.
700, I think,
I
right?
think so, yes, ma'am. But I mean, all that stuff was occupied, and of course, I don't want to speak for Mr. Wadeson, but he's thinking we could probably do that underneath the level 2 alteration, which doesn't affect the overall scope of the building, because at some point, when this building was up and functionally operational, it was being used, right? So we don't really have a change use. Now, we can't take that same space down there that once was a hair salon and make it a restaurant, because that's a change of use, right? It was all mercantile or business at one point. So if we go changing the use of it, if we make it a nightclub or we make it whatever, right, just whatever we don't leave space out for, that makes a change of use. Then you have to trigger the entire building again.
Okay.
So as long as it stays relatively close to what it was, right, was generalized retail sales or business occupancy.
And then I look, I know you've got, I'll get to you in just a second, Commissioner. The phased approach on page 5, we have staff relocation versus the data center relocation. So understanding that, just what it says, it's not a simple move. The recommendation would be phased and a strategic process that addresses both personnel and infrastructure. So we have infrastructure in both downtown area and also at the EOC, and for the data center. And both of those are secured data areas, and they also are secured with a backup generator, correct? Okay. Okay,
There is not a viable option for a generator at this location. So that, as we talk again, some of the, the complexities of this move are that, some components of that would still need to be secured at that downtown location for as long as we maintain ownership of that building and unless we identify an alternative spot for some of that critical infrastructure.
okay. So if we were looking at just the phase one approach, which is staff relocation, I know we have this drawing behind us, and it's almost 5,000 square feet. This proposal would be in which section of the building? Do we know?
Staff, IT staff drew that as their desire. It was not drawn as a retrofit to any one particular location.
Oh, okay.
This was their ideal office setup. Again, there are probably some efficiencies that we could pick up with some modifications. And if we were applying that to one of these locations, then of course you would modify the layout some to make sure we still accommodate staffing needs, but obviously it wouldn't look exactly like this.
Right. I know that I had James, I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up on my phone. Let's see. No, I don't see it. He didn't have that drawing. Okay. Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
There was a lot going on there. I almost lost my train of thought. But so where we're at now, Mr. Grimes, how far are we from triggering that threshold? It's a two-part question. And are we allowed those spaces that were occupied to be incorporated into a redesign without overtaking that threshold, such as the sheriff's office, the pet salon, and all that were most recently occupied?
Yes, sir, that's kind of where we covered, right? Mr. Wadeson was lenient enough to say, okay, anything we've occupied in the past, right, which would be from the Pantry Pride to over towards Westover, and including the wraparound to the supervisor of elections and the Veteran Services Office. So all of that we've once occupied, as long as, I don't want to speak for Mr. Wadeson, as long as we don't encroach on that 19,000 square foot of unoccupied space, he was fine with doing a level 2 type alteration.
Okay, and that
And we can't change occupancies.
And that will not push us beyond that threshold where we have to upgrade the entire facility?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, good. No, that's good to know, because that's a huge implication on that. But with that being said, so the Pantry Pride area could still remain unoccupied physically, but we could utilize that as a storage facility.
Yes, sir, 'cause that's what it's being used for today, right?
Okay.
So that's what it's been since it's been here, has been a storage facility, right? So until we change the occupancy from storage, so when we go in there and change it from storage to business or storage to whatever, right? That's when it's gonna trigger the change of use of the building.
Good deal. No, I want a
Right.
definitive answer
Yep.
so people in cyber world and myself could reference that. Additionally, so if we, and this is, a little bit further down the road, but we're discussing what these things are gonna cost and how we're going to pay for them. So at that point, we could take and move a lot of the material that's in the Highway Patrol building over in East Palatka back into this area and potentially sell that property to offset the cost of these renovations for the county.
Commissioner, I'd really like us to focus on the IT and then just do in the order and then have that bigger discussion. Focus on the way we have it on the agenda. Commissioner Pelletier.
It's been so long, I'm like Alexander,
can write notes.
everything's run everywhere and gone different directions. I agree with Commissioner, what's your name again?
What's your name?
Yeah, Harvey, that to the general public, and you don't utilize the space that we have here, they don't understand or will not understand why you didn't use it. And that'll be a huge discussion of, you've got a building over there, and it, by the way, it doesn't leak, or not that I know, I've been in it, I didn't see any wet spots, but that's gonna be an issue there, for one. I don't know if this would, and I'd hate to do it, but if you take out that breezeway, does that salvage or make us able to not break that threshold that you're talking about?
He's saying you don't break it if you
We,
leave the road.
we don't break it until we encroach on the 19,000 square foot of the pantry pride.
That's what he's talking about. He wants to renovate the 19,000.
No, the second we touch that, you can remove whatever, you can knock the whole supervisor of elections side down. The minute you go in there, you're going to have to do the whole entire building. One piece of pipe that runs through the pantry pride, we have triggered the threshold. Doesn't matter what else we do to the building. It's not. It's the square footage of the building and the change of the use of the building that's going to require it to be done.
Okay, for now, I'm satisfied. We'll move on.
Commissioner Newbold, you're recognized.
You may have stated this earlier, but in that space that we have available that we can utilize before we trigger the whole shebang, what is the square footage in that space, more or less? Discounting, just at the end of this building, before you make the L.
You got a restaurant in there too, so what you have is you have vacant space on one side of the restaurant.
I
You have vacant
understand.
space on the other, yeah.
But even
So you're
including,
saying on
even
the-
including the restaurant.
Okay,
I'm just curious as to that square footage.
yep.
But to me, as you make the corner, we're kind of already made the commitment to dedicate that to veteran services, in my mind.
On the piece that's next to Veteran Services.
Correct.
Yes.
So just,
Roughly.
okay, so let's talk, can we reverse B with A for just 1 second?
Sure.
Because I've got a budgetary estimate on there which may help the conversation go
Okay.
a lot better. So I walked the contractor through the building and says, what do you think it would cost to replace the storefront glass to accommodate the 6 offices? And we floated around the plan roughly of, creating, I think it was 6 more offices, a visitation room, a little small conference room, all that. Now we're not talking about doing any roof work, okay, because that still needs to be done. You're looking at, he told me somewhere, you're gonna probably between $250,000 and $300,000 to reclaim that space and make it functional and usable the way that it was designed on that plan, right?
Okay.
And that was, I'm gonna tell you, that's roughly 2,500, 3,000, I don't wanna give you a bad number, but that's what that space was in there. That was a rough budgetary estimate on what we had, a really small scale drawing. He thought we could probably pull off for somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $300,000.
And that's just getting it into a shell.
That's getting the veteran services into, open the doors to where you can serve
Oh.
clientele was about $300,000.
Veteran services, okay,
sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
then, I'm gonna tell you, it's probably gonna be twice that much to come around the corner and build twice the space for IT. If we stick with a 5,000 square foot price tag, you're probably gonna come around the corner and spend $600,000-700,000.
That puts me back to the question of the old First Federal building and why we don't just, it's my understanding that building is beyond its useful life and not worth a rehabilitation.
That's correct,
And
yes, sir.
I don't recall, it's not a very big building, but there's space out there. It makes me wonder why we don't get rid of that and put IT there. At some point in time, when we have the need and have identified use for the balance of this, we're gonna have to bite off the fire suppression and the whole kit and caboodle. But I think, we talked about the public looking at it and saying, why don't you use space you already have? And they won't understand that. Well, they understand dollars. And if you say, hey, it costs us, $2 million to do this and $500,000 to solve this problem in the short term, I think people understand that. Anyway.
Madam Chair, and just to give some more perspective, the sanitation's building that we built at Solid Waste was 2,500 square feet, brand new. Turnkey was $397,000.
What'd you say, it was 397?
397, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, approximately 2,500 square feet. Turnkey was $397,000. Yes, sir. Animal control, when we separated the building out,
For the
the
office?
the office building itself was approximately 400,000 for 3,000 square feet.
And I know this is the drawing that IT submitted based on their looking toward the future. but certainly we could scale this down. This is a 5,000, almost 5,000 square foot area. And we don't know exactly what's at the end of this building. What did you determine that, square footage wise?
I wrote it down, but I don't have it with me, but I will get you a measurement before we get out of here.
Somebody can pull that up. Can somebody pull this up? It can't be that hard.
We'll work on that.
I got you.
Okay, thank you. It's hard, I think we're back to where we were to begin with, which is, it's hard for us as a board, and it's hard for you as a staff, to say, well, what do we do next? And while we can talk about a new building, we don't know what the building is gonna cost to renovate. And until we know what the building's gonna cost to renovate, then we can't make an informed decision on which one to choose. So I think that's the same challenge that we were facing earlier. Commissioner Pelletier, recognized.
Madam Chair, thank you. I have a sketch here that Mr. Suggs got me quite a while back when we toured the Pantry Pride building, if
good.
you will. And
Good.
if we could maybe let Ms. Berardi make 8 or 9, 10 copies and pass them out, it might help everybody kind of stay on point.
Are these based on the suites?
This is strictly Pantry Pride there, and this is what we currently occupy.
I don't know that that would help us. We're looking at what's at the very end.
I understand that, but I'm just, so you know, never mind. If you don't think it'll help, okay.
Well, it'll help for the next discussion.
Okay.
You want to do that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Sorry. That's why it's called a workshop. Commissioner Alexander.
So that brings me back to the end of my discussion from earlier. I would rather engage an architect and a contractor to get a firm cost on what it's gonna take to renovate those buildings on a square foot basis, or, you know, getting it as close to what our desire is for those two departments before we make a decision on which way we're going to go. Because again, like I said, I would rather spend 10 grand than make $1 million mistake. I definitely, my goal at the end of this meeting is to provide staff with a direction, but also we need to make an informed decision instead of a bad decision. So I think it would behoove us as a county to spend that money to get a physical quote and then make a decision based on that quote to renovate our existing space versus building new stuff. So,
Any thoughts?
I'm had my mind on something else. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thinking ahead. Somebody,
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Alexander, I'm in full support of that. I believe that's the right way to go. I think when we talk like that, though, we do need to look at somebody who can look at all the buildings. If we trip the threshold, what does it cost us to trip it? If we don't have a use for it, you know, I agree that when I said the fact that the optics are hard to explain, they are hard to explain, because when you say, well, if you want to talk to a constituent and you have the ability to debate with them, you can say, yeah, it costs us cheaper to build than it did to renovate. But we don't have that position sometimes. Sometimes it's in social media, it's gone before we can ever capture the narrative, and trying to get it back is. Now, does it really hurt us? I don't know that, but I'm just saying, I think we do need to be mindful of that. But I'm also of the mind of, if we have a 19,000 square foot building that we can't ever use, then why have a 19,000 square foot building? Let's tear the thing down, make it a breezeway, make it a concrete pad, put picnic tables on it, and have people sit out there. Whatever we can do. But our public now is going, you have all this room, and you can't do anything. So I'm with you. I think we need to find somebody that can tell us what we don't know and go forward at that point and say, these are your options, and show them that, number one, we got to show them what we want to do, right? These are the things we want to do. We want to put this building here. We want to put this office there, and see what the outcome would be. Because right now, we don't know what we don't know. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
very well put.
So what, so just to make sure that we all agree. We all agree on a couple things. We all agree that we want to see IT moved over here. Do we all agree on that?
Mhm.
Okay. Do we all agree that we're looking at a staff relocation in one phase and a phase two as far as the data center at a separate time?
Makes sense.
What remains down there would be handled separately. Okay. So, okay, we got a couple things we agree on. Then the third thing comes to what size does the IT actually need? And is there space already in our building at the end? Okay, thank you.
So currently, you have a total of all of them down there of 9,400 square feet.
Okay.
A vacant,
Not including the restaurant.
not including the Pantry Pride in the middle. You got 9,400 square feet to the westover side of Pantry Pride today.
Okay,
One of them is 4,800 square feet, one of them is 3,000, and one of them is 1,600.
no, that's
So
on the
that's
other side.
totally separate.
And I think, so do we know if this drawing that was estimated was based on the 4,800 square foot? I know it says 4,900 and something, but I remember James, yeah. That's in our packet?
Oh, no, no, ma'am. That, again, was drawn by the IT department. They just drew up their ideal plan. This was not a plan that was particular to be inserted into any existing predisposed notion of where they were going to go. This was just an ideal scenario for them.
Okay, so which one is the 4,800 square feet? The furthest to the end, the one on this
It
side?
would be the third from the end.
Madam Chair, point of order. For me, it would be helpful
Bill
if they
Laundrie.
have a map from the Pantry Pride on that way to the end of the breezeway and any other thing going towards supervisor elections. That'd be helpful for us to be looking at, so we're looking at the same square footage
By
numbers.
map, what I'm looking at is literally just a drawing that breaks the suites.
Okay.
Okay,
It's
so I think
not-
what he's asking is
That's the
could we get
property
that on our
appraiser's
monitor?
website.
Right, and I'm just, it's,
Monitor or hard copy,
our
either one,
website.
whatever. Is this-
James, Jacob, can you get me, access to display onto the podium?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's a good idea. While you're doing that, Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized. You have other comments, or? You did? These workshops are different, aren't they?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, all right.
Madam Chair, just for the record, the paper was just handed out. That
Yes.
was a information that I got Mr. Leo to give me several months ago.
Okay,
So, this is the information that was provided by the chief building official, just so we'd have a square footage.
okay, so while they're pulling this up, the square footage that says 20,115 is what?
Pantry Pride.
That's what we refer to as Pantry Pride, and the 26,470 is Suite 100.
I should have done that
Our,
before we
our
put it
current,
on.
our current office, okay. Thank you,
That's everything from building and zoning back.
okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Does everybody understand that? Okay.
And the other pieces we're talking about are
This,
from here down.
this 20,000 is the
Yep.
Pantry Pride, and then everything else
Correct.
Which they said was
Yes, ma'am.
9,400.
west of that building,
That's what
yep,
they're working on, getting us a map of. Everything beyond Pantry Pride.
right.
Oh, well. While they're working on that, I did have some of
Okay.
that, some of it came back to me. But as Mr. Harvey was saying, we were elected to make the best decisions, best fiscal decisions for our community. And, we need to collect all the data so that when somebody does come to us and ask why we did this, because we base it in fact, we did the research, and, you know, this is the decision we came up based on that information that provided us with the best future path moving forward for the county. So we have this facility, if we can use it, fine, but if it's cost prohibitive and we can get 3 buildings to accommodate 3 different services for the same price that we could for renovating that, we would be foolish to do that.
I think
And then
that's,
we would have to answer to that.
I think that's the discussion we have to have once we have the numbers, obviously, but it's hard for me and my little pea-picking brain to understand why we couldn't use 4,800 square feet that's already existing, and that it would be more expensive than building a brand-new building.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the way most citizens will think, but I guess we won't know till we see those
Well,
numbers.
Madam Chair, I agree with you 100%. It's hard to comprehend. How
It
can we
is.
have 4 walls and a roof that, then we can't go in and modify what we need to modify, and that still be cheaper than from the ground up?
I just can't, it's already got the ground, it's already got the
It-
zoning, it's already got the concrete floor and the concrete walls.
I agree with you, and if we can, that's what we need to do. But, you know, I'll tell you a brief story, and I'll give you my best Larry Harvey impersonation. I bought a Mustang years ago for my wife for $2,000, and I put about $6,000 into it, and I was just about $3,000 short of having a $1,500 Mustang.
That's right.
And I don't want us to be in that same position. Yes. So I just want to make sure we collect all the data, and even if it costs us a little bit of time, a little bit of money, to assure that we're making the right decision, let's just do that.
Well, we already had CRG come in front of us, and they basically said, what is it you want? And we never gave them what we wanted.
Yep. And now we're going to have a direction at the end of this meeting, one way or another. That is my goal.
We're getting there.
Mhm.
Getting there.
Yep. And
Mr. Suggs, did you have anything you wanted to add, or Mr. Grimes?
As soon as Ms. Young and IT can get that pulled up so you guys can have it, I think it'll be much more helpful at that time.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a few minute break while they're doing that. Thank you. All right, we have the map in front of us. Yeah, I can, thank you. Is your mic on? Yeah, but you're multi-talented, so I'm not worried about you.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your vote of confidence
Yeah,
there. I'll take
you
that.
got this.
Okay, so
All right,
if
very
you
good,
can-
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If you can follow my pointer, that is what we are lovingly referring to as the old video visitation. That's 16,000 square foot.
1,600, yep.
1,600, I'm sorry. The one beside it there is what used to be a hair salon.
Yep,
And then immediately adjacent there would be what we would call the old laundromat. And then this 1,200 square foot is the current restaurant that exists.
okay.
Moving down from there, we have the two buildings, what we are calling Pantry Pride, and the building that we are occupying.
All right, go back to the first one.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at you, Clay, with all this great mapping online. I knew it was available. Good job. Good job, Julianne, pulling it up. Thank you. Very helpful.
Very helpful.
Yeah, so I guess in my mind, I had always thought that the 4,800 square foot, especially whenever we talked about the loading dock on the back, I know there's some concerns about that as well, but it did give them the ability to unload equipment on the other side of the fence versus they're having to go upstairs. So I had always in my head at least thought the 4,800 square foot would work. I don't care, they can configure it however they want to. It already has bathrooms too. You're not having to build new bathrooms. It has bathrooms and plumbing already in it. Granted, the plumbing would have to be upgraded. I get it. You know what? It does have bathrooms. I looked at them.
Okay, I don't think that 4,800 has a loading dock. That's Pantry Pride built. The 1,260 is a
Restaurant,
restaurant, right?
Is the restaurant, and then you're going towards Westover.
Right, yeah, so that's not the loading dock.
well, it might not be the entire loading dock, but it's got you can back your car up to the back door.
If the 4,800, what happened there? If the 4,800 square foot piece needed a loading dock, certainly that could be constructed. That would not be a
Right,
huge
right. I don't know that
expense.
would be a matter anyway, but maybe it was because you turned out here and went behind this one that said 3,000. There's a door right there at the end. Either way, it has something back there. What I would like to see, and so I guess I need direction from staff, if we wanted to build out the 4,800 square foot or the 3,000, do we have to spend $10,000 for an engineered drawing? I mean, we can't do this and then once in other words, could we take that 4,800 square foot and have Richie do his design of what he would like to see in that building, because that does include the bathrooms. If he was able to take that and overlay something, right? That we can't take that to a GC and say, hey, come look at this building and give us an idea?
Don't hold me to that $10,000, I was just throwing a number out, okay? Yeah, that's what I wanna see. Why can't we do that so we get an accurate cost?
Because you're asking, we're being asked, which is fair, I'm not saying it's not fair, but we're saying, well, from staff's perspective, what I remember you guys saying was, we can't do something unless it's funded, right? Like it's an unfunded project. So how much do you wanna put toward it? Well, I don't know how much to put toward it. I mean, it could be kill the deal right off the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if you guys will determine what space you want, I can get you a proposal that we can bring back to the board that says it's gonna cost X, because we can draw all we want. Somebody's gonna have to sign, seal, and stamp
Sure.
permittable plans, right?
Right?
So, I mean, it'd be no different than what we did right there. I mean, we can get a very rough estimate on what it would cost, but I mean, somebody eventually is gonna have to give us a proposal, right? And we can bring a proposal back to you guys that says it's gonna cost $100,000 for plans. And
Right.
then they're going to put the plans on the street, and then it's going to come back with a number. And then we don't know what the number is until, it comes back, right? So, I mean, we can get you a rough idea. I mean, we can take the square footage of what we just did. I mean, because you're really the same scale design as what we just did at, well, not SMA, when we looked, I had the
Insight.
contractor come down and do the real quick look at veteran services to get those guys expanded over there. Ms. Julian, what's the square footage of that piece? Is that one that you have there?
Of veterans, of
Yeah,
what we
the
were
piece that was the-
2,000.
2,000? So around $150, $160 a square foot. I'd say it was probably ballpark of what it cost to build that piece out.
The quote was roughly 250, right?
250 to 300 was just a
So
general
if we're gonna double that, you're gonna be $500,000 plus the engineering
design.
and design for the IT area.
For 5,000 square foot,
It's correct,
correct?
just by the numbers.
Yep, yep, and that's, you know, what I was gonna suggest, you know, we just did a remodel on SMA, which we're all very proud of. And then we're doing a remodel out there at the sheriff's office on the old driving range. So we've got some estimates that are pretty close on what real numbers are going to be, because we have two projects running concurrently. You know, that kind of gives us an idea. I had forgotten about those, so we kind of have an idea of what renovation costs are now.
And what were those per
They're
square foot,
jumping
more or
ahead of
less?
you, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
So I think the,
They both,
oh, hang on.
Get to me, I don't care.
Can I answer Mr. Newbold's question?
Yes.
I just kind of just trying to keep your order that you asked for. So the Insight building was roughly, I'm gonna tell you, somewhere around 2,200, 2,300 square foot.
Is that the sheriff's office?
The sheriff's office, yes, sir. That was $380,000 plus a $20,000 septic system. So we're gonna be $400,000 into the remodel of that 2,000 square feet. And it had no bathroom work. It had, I mean, we changed the fixtures, right? And we added a shower. And then we painted the walls, put flooring down. I mean, but we kept the same mechanical systems. A lot of it is the same, and it was 380. And then what we just did at SMA, I did not get a square footage at SMA. I'm gonna say it's probably 5,000 square feet.
that's where I would put it.
Was $608,000 to do just
Those,
truly paint and flooring and some odd and end. I mean, they built a couple barrack type walls, but I mean, it was no major construction.
and both of those numbers are net, the design, engineering plans that had to be done.
And your, on your septic, you said, for the Insight was how much?
I think 13,000.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Palacio, you're recognized.
Everyone, I think we should bear in mind that we're not constrained to this 1,600 square feet or this 3,000 square feet and that wall that's there. We could easily knock a hole in that wall and put in a doorway. You could take the 1,600 square foot side, bring it back to square it up with the 3,000 square foot side if we need to add on, if we needed that space. This is what we have. It's not what we're tied to. We could expand upon this drawing in any direction, pretty, well, not any, but, you know.
I would
Within
just
reason.
like Mr. Wade said to answer that question, if he would. Okay, then that answers that question, whether it's a level 1 or level 2 remodel, right? I don't know how far he wants to push his needle on which one's which.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Grimes, I was talking to you at the end of the break about the electricity work and asked you if we could bring a generator. Let's just say we're in this section down here, the 3,000 square foot or the 4,800. You're concerned, you had some concerns about the electricity and the generator. Would you expound upon that?
Yes, sir. So back whenever we did the roofing project on here and we didn't do the roof over top of the old cooler that's behind the pantry pride, there's 2 switch gears back there that I was told at the time was about an 18-month delay to get them. I said, can we get a generator in here to run the building? He said, not the whole thing, because it's just the way this thing is wired, right? It was brought in from the 2 services, and there's ways it crosses back and forth. I was told by the electricians then that you'd have to segregate it. You'd have to redo it down there and just wire your hardcore infrastructure into a generator. Could you put a generator here? Yeah, but you just had to put just what you needed it for your dedicated resource that you're needing to power, whether it be your IT equipment or whatever. But to do the whole entire building, they told me no. But I'm not an electrician. I just went on the professional advice of the ones that came here, and I've talked to 2 of them that said that it couldn't be done. Not the way the building's currently wired.
So my question is, if we did the 1,260 west, okay, could we cut the electricity off there, start over with new electricity, and just forget, and then put a generator there just to handle that part?
That's going to be an electrical engineer that tells us that. I truly can't answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Commissioner Alexander.
Commissioner Harvey, your questions regarding the generator, was that in regards to supporting the hardware for IT in that area? So during my conversation with Mr. Ritchie, and maybe Jacob can expound on it a little bit, but the majority of the critical systems are either already moved to the EOC center or going to be moved to the EOC center. So I don't believe the criticality is there, that might be a determining factor as to whether or not we did this on this building. While I have the floor though, Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if it would be for Leo or for Mr. Grimes, but back in the day, I did some work on one of the county's properties. It's the old hospital that became the nursing home. And they went to do some fire piping through there. And during the course of that, they found asbestos. And I wanted to see if there has been an asbestos assessment on our facility, if there's any there, if there's going to be any abatement needed, because that will be a large cost on that as well.
I don't have that answer.
Yeah, it's an unknown. All right, gentlemen. We've got more answers. Now, what's your pleasure? What is the direction you'd like to see staff to do? Commissioner Alexander.
I would like to see staff go out and get estimates for each one of the properties, or we're on IT right now, so let's stick with IT.
Yes, we're on IT, that's
Yep.
correct.
I would like to instruct staff to go and get an estimate to build out, 5,000 square feet per the request of our IT department. Give us we call it a plus or minus 30%, to give us an idea of where we're gonna be if we decide to go that direction. Because we already know what it's gonna cost us to build a new facility, and then we can make an educated decision for our constituents.
Yeah, and I don't mind if they had to shrink from 5,000 to 4,800.
Sure.
Sure.
Sure, I mean, when we were talking, we said ask for the stars and see if you get the moon, that's
Okay.
good. But we need to assign a number to that. So, with that motion, can I open it for discussion as to what staff might think would be a potential cost to acquire that number?
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion if he's got it on the floor. Now we can have discussion, correct?
I want to make sure we get a dollar value on what our staff might think it would cost us to get an accurate estimate.
All right, we're in discussion.
We generally see, and this is just a very general thing, so I'm gonna caveat it with that, at about a 10% is what design and engineering would cost for the design of the building. So, I think our early estimates, when we figure it up, I think you're gonna be somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 to do the 5,000 square foot remodel. That's just a simple thought. I think you're gonna be somewhere $60,000 to $80,000 in design and engineering, plus your 600,000 for building. So you're gonna be total packaging, I'm gonna say 700, 800 grand.
But that gives you a document that you can take to the street.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We've got to have some number somewhere to start with, and, right now, we're just casting it in the sky and see what sticks. We don't have no idea, so I think we need to come back with some solid numbers on that 4,800 square feet and see what we're looking at. We may be barking up the wrong tree, and we can't do anything about it, so we need to find out if we can.
We can bring you back an engineering estimate, and that's what you're gonna get back, is what the architect or the engineer is gonna tell us that we're gonna see for this 4,800 square feet that cost. Now, that's not saying that we can't value engineer, we can't do something, but that's what you're gonna see.
If this were to happen, Mr. Grimes, I'd like to see you work some of your magic like you did out at the animal service.
Those are coming very thin. About out of the magic eraser.
All right. So let's bring this back. So, is the motion for an engineering estimate?
Mr. Grimes, what, an engineering estimate, you're saying 10% of the total cost of the project? Or is that a different estimate?
That's what I'm telling you, that it'd probably cost for me to get design plans put together, which is what we're going to get put to the street to bid. Because they're going to come in, they're going to do the layout. You're going to pay an architect or engineering firm somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 for me to bring you back the proposal to do that space.
So we have two things. So what Commissioner Palacier is saying is the estimate first, and then if we're okay with that, then go out to the design, right? You're
Yeah, I
saying
think that's
getting an
what I said.
estimate, yeah. Am I understanding that correctly?
We're promised we're going to that backwards. I have to have a design in order to put something out to get you a price, because I don't know whether you want 3 bathrooms, you want 2 bathrooms, you want 16 offices, you want 12 offices, you want
I want the
this power, you want that
the
power.
least expensive.
I
Get a
understood,
porta
but
lit.
we gotta have a design before we can put something, because who knows what, that's where, all this is gonna start at a design, right?
Commissioner, I'm going to help. I'm going to jump in and help a little bit. So decisions before you guys, if you would like to move forward in the next step in getting a proposal, is that we engage a design professional. We have those on continuing services. The board would need to direct staff to engage a design professional and direct staff as to what budget you'd like this taken from.
If that's the proper protocol for this step, I would like to make that motion.
Well, it's already a motion on the
All right,
floor.
all right.
Did it get
So,
seconded?
Let's
Your-
start all over.
Yeah, all right, I rescind my motion so we can get some more clarity to it as we move
Well,
forward.
you can still make a motion, I just need to have it clear.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
so what's your motion?
So my motion is to engage a design professional to provide us with a solid number so that we can accurately determine which path would be the most beneficial for our constituents as good stewards of the tax dollars. And I would like to challenge Mr. Grimes with providing me that estimate for $50,000.
Commissioner, I'm gonna, and I appreciate all of that in the world. However, design
No.
professionals are one of those categories where negotiations are very thin in what the law allows. And so we are not allowed to really negotiate with design professionals quite as blatantly as we are once we get contractors, right? We can value engineer contractors. The method of what they do, we're not allowed to value engineer design professionals in that particular manner quite as blatantly. So certainly we can engage a design professional via proposal with a max not to exceed number, but if that number exceeds it, then we walk away from them and we are not allowed to go back to them by method of the law.
Gotcha. So,
So make your allowance something that that we all feel is truly reasonable, and then identify the reserve fund that you'd like to be utilizing.
Or you don't put the number on it.
Madam Chair, you got a motion without a second on the floor. And you have a discussion.
all right. Yeah,
I think our motion was inaccurate in the way you
Well,
could proceed.
It's a $50,000 cap. Is that what you're saying, Commissioner Alexander?
well, based on, we were open for discussion on that motion, and based on the data that's provided, they don't feel that that's gonna achieve what we need, and then once we do that, that's gonna isolate which design professionals we can use, because we can't go back to them if we haven't agreed to the terms that they are, and that's a state mandate, so that's non-negotiable. It's scary to me that if we know that we're gonna be $600,000 to $700,000 to renovate that particular facility, and we know that we can build brand new for $400,000 or $500,000.
I don't know that we know that. I mean, we also thought, the design engineer that we got for the boat ramp was a lot more than what it came in at.
Yep, and that's a very valid point, so that's why I question where we're at, on the estimate, but, I don't want to handcuff staff with an unachievable goal, because that's been a recurring theme in prior administrations. They do a good job, and but I don't want it, to be consistently stressful and have to do things that, may or beyond their capacity. So I would like to amend my motion. I think that $60,000 would be the not to exceed that I would like to propose. Ms. Michelle?
For a renovation project
Yes, ma'am.
in the suite.
On the
And
IT
from what fund, sir? What reserve pot?
Now, that's up to you. Tell me where you recommend that being drawn from. Would that be from the Better Place Plan? Would that be from general fund, reserve? Where would you think would be the most appropriate place to pull that?
In this particular project, eligible funding pots are going to be either your general fund reserves or your BPP, although I will tell you the perception to BPP on an IT building may be not as palatable as using your general fund reserves.
I agree 100%. So I would like to pull that from the general funds and retain the BPP for what it's for, better place plan.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, Ms. Young, do you feel like that number is adequate, that if I heard him correctly, 50,000? Is that right? Or
60.
60?
His max not to exceed was 60,000.
Okay. Is
I
that-
am not a design professional, so let me start there.
I do know that.
So we certainly will go out and negotiate that contract or attempt to negotiate that contract.
Come back.
If we hit impasse, then we'll come back and go back to the drawing board. But it may be a decision point for you all too. If we've hit impasse on a design professional that we know to have done projects for us before, and we know that cost is gonna exceed 60 for the design, then it may be reasonable for you guys to explore what a design professional is going to be for new construction.
Right.
Right? It may be a metric where it triggers your decision matrix.
Right.
Okay.
All right,
So-
we have a motion on the floor in a second. Go ahead.
One more question, doesn't really pertain to that, but we have designs and plans on file for the 2 buildings that we just built brand new, so we will save money if we can modify those plans, correct?
Well, the 2 buildings yes, if we were doing new construction, sure, we could lay those
Sure.
plans in front of us.
Okay, so we're not
Your
just.
motion is for renovation of
Right,
current
right, I
faci-
just wanted to clarify that before we made the vote.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, Veterans Services Office. So, that's in front of us. Page 8 and 9, and the rendering is, the last page in your packet. So as we know, the Veteran Services Office is cramped in their current space, and they need additional space to accommodate staff and veterans and people who are coming into the office. And administrative staffs work with Veteran Services to determine what they need. And there is an approximate 2,000 square foot office suite right next to where they're at, so they wouldn't have to do anything but move next door. And
When you say move next door, they're going to just widen their current space, continue to use the space they have and utilize the space next to them, or physically move?
oh, I didn't get that. I
Mhm.
guess I need clarity on that myself.
I think the plan was just to move next door and to look at potentials for giving that space that they're currently occupying back to the supervisor of
That's
elections.
what I thought.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay,
I was unclear.
okay.
I believe that is what we have drawn up, JR. I need to switch computers.
Yeah, let's say that again, Ms. Young, I'm sorry.
I believe my understanding is that when we met to get a visual, a design concept, was for us to move them out of their current, so remember the suite that they're in used to go from the front of the building to the back, but we cut it in half years ago when Veteran Services was a very small operation and the Supervisor of Elections was growing in what they needed to store and operate in. So the back half of that suite that they're currently occupying was cut in half and isolated to the Supervisor of Elections. As we all know, the Supervisor of Elections operations are going to continue to grow, so has Veteran Services. So they currently are operating in basically a half of a suite. So when we looked at the options, it was to move them completely out of the space that they're in and into a front-to-back suite, i.e. they would take up the whole area to give them the utilization. Now, their request was a 2,000 square foot area that would accommodate their current needs, with some caveats that they need ADA accessibility for the patrons that they serve, those types of things. And so that space they're currently occupying today could be then returned to the Supervisor of Elections or identified to be used by a much smaller division than what Veteran Services is every day.
And the current location that we're referring to is already at 2,000 square feet?
Yes, that's correct.
Utilize them
It's what we
that-
used to call the doggy adoption center. We used to do doggy adoptions in the windows.
All right, Commissioner Harvey, you recognized.
Julianne, can you put the map back up there from,
Well, I wish I could. Not yet, IT, please. I'm not sure I have that.
While she's putting that up there, could I ask?
Sure.
And maybe I was writing something else down, and y'all may have already mentioned it. Veteran Services is currently in 2,000, correct?
Suite 2,000 or square feet?
No, square feet, 2,000
They're in
square feet, I'm
1,000.
sorry.
They're in 1,000.
The women's dress shop that is next to it, what's the square footage there?
It's the 2,000 we're referring to.
It's 2 more thousand?
No, it's the same thing. It's called, you're calling it that, she's calling it the animal where we had adoptions.
I believe the plans that,
It's the same property.
Okay.
right, and I believe it's one and the same, and it's roughly 2,000 square feet
Correct.
as to what we would move them into. What they're currently in is 1,000 square foot. If you can look on the map, it's not well, you can't readily identify it, but it's a portion of this building here.
Okay.
so Madam Chair, the question I have for Julianne is, go back to the map of, let's talk about from the Chinese restaurant west,
Okay,
okay?
yes, sir.
So if we're talking the 4,800 square foot, and that's what we just decided on, could we do something to the west of that and build veteran services there and completely move them from their location to that location? Because they're gonna need a lot more security than what they have now. And our veterans deserve a better area, in my opinion. So my thought is, get them out of the building they're in that's cramped there and put them into a bigger building. And then we've solved that problem too of future growth, because I do hope that we grow veteran services more. Just like you said, elections is gonna grow. We need to be prepared for our veterans to be able to be served in a secure facility. So my thought is, since we're doing it, maybe some engineer, architect, whoever, would look at both buildings and say, we can do this and that. But our veterans deserve that, and then forgo the buildings from the old dress shop and the old beauty salon over to supervisor of elections, Eckerd Drugs, if you will. Forgo all that and just put our people down this side right here. And that would be IT and veteran services next door. That would be something I would like to see done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Sure.
That would, they're currently in 1,000, so we'd be tripling their space that. Their drawing that they sent us, what's the square footage that they?
2,000.
2,000?
Yes, sir.
That's 1,000 more, they ought to be happy with that.
Yeah,
I would
I
think.
2,800,
2,800?
2,800, 27
Well,
something.
we're,
Yep.
that sounds good, I think.
Who drew this?
So we had a contractor give us a preliminary, just kind of a basic concept of it.
And this was based on the
This
spot that
was
we were
based
talking?
on Mr. Allen and his teams telling us about their needs. Now, I will say it may be prudent, especially for this particular division, for us to look at both spaces, because we did get a little bit creative in how we're gonna get water to one side of the building to the other to accommodate some ADA restroom requirements and requests. So that was in part, part of that design accommodated trying not to run plumbing to one side of the building where it didn't exist. So we could look at both, whatever, I understand Commissioner Harvey's desire was to keep us all on one side of the building. However, cost may outweigh the desire to put us all on one side of the building. No, sure.
Good question.
Commissioner Harvey, were you done?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
Ms. Young, so I'm looking at the BE00 suite, and we're potentially getting an estimate on putting the IT staff in the 4,800 square foot, and then the 3,000 square foot beside that is the one we're talking about, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay, so that being said, the water was going to be an issue for,
No, let me
For
back
the-
up. The plan that you originally have in your packet was developed to be in what you guys are calling that dress shop, and was kind of flipped to accommodate plumbing on the back side where it currently runs. It's certainly, any renovation that we do is we're gonna need plumbing, obviously, for IT as well. So it may be a not issue.
Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be an issue. I mean, we can run the plumbing overhead. We don't, people naturally assume that you've gotta run it through the foundation, but if your supply lines can all go up and over, your drains obviously have to go down, but, okay.
Well, I know in viewing both the 3,000 square foot suite and the 4,000, the plumbing, the bathrooms are already on back of both of those buildings.
Yep. I agree.
That's where the previous bathrooms were.
Yeah, I went down there and looked at it as well, so.
So,
Whatever the least expensive option that provides our people with the best opportunity to service our constituents is what we want to go with, so.
so can you go back to the other slide where you had, right next to the supervisor of elections office, where the current,
Working on it.
so that 3,300? Okay. So we just haven't drawn out, we haven't sectioned out of that the current supervisor. I mean, it's just the current, veteran services. So in your comments, and if I heard them wrong, Mr. Grimes, please help me. I thought you had an idea that this 2,800 square foot for veteran services would be somewhere in the 250, 300,000 maybe? So if we're taking an existing building and you're
That was a
renov-
real rough estimate, okay? I mean, we didn't really nail down to what we wanted the storefront to look like or anything like that. It was just the inside trims.
Okay, so why wouldn't we have the same type of math for the IT building?
That's what we said a minute ago. I mean, it was the same number, about 2,500 square feet. And if it's 33, I don't think it quite is 3,300, but that's not here nor there. And we said that was somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000, double the space is 600. That's where kind of we got the math at. I mean, I'm sure it's going to change one way or the other. That's why I was just throwing through some real rough estimates out there.
Okay. Okay. I was making sure I was following your thought process. Is it less expensive to bid them together? If you're doing a bigger project, is it, I mean, do we save money by
Probably.
putting them together versus?
I would think so. Yes, ma'am. I put it out as one package, right? Because then you're only mobilizing one contractor. I mean, you probably need to increase your amount for design, right? Because we went from designing, because we're gonna need to design both, right? Both of them are going to go through the same process, and we can design the 4,800 and the 3,000 next door for that 7,800 square feet. We can design all at one time and make it the space, and we can move a wall or whatever we need to do.
Outstanding.
We can absolutely do that. But I mean, we just need to know, if you guys like the concept that they've provided with you for the amount of offices they need and that kind of stuff, we can absolutely bring that back as a one-time design for this basically 7,800 square feet.
Well, I do like Commissioner Harvey's comments that you could put them on the same side of the building, and then you could bid them out at the same time. They're right there together. You can put veteran services where the 3,000 square feet is, and potentially IT where the 4,800 is, and get them both worked on and bid and just everything at the same time. I like that idea.
I agree, because I mean.
Because if you're making a roof repair, you don't have to make it on two buildings. I know you said there's still gonna be a need on the supervisor elections building in
ma'am.
the future. But if you're making the plumbing, it works for both sides of the wall.
Yes, and
whatever.
just so you keep in mind, that side of the building, the roof's already been done on, right? So all that's already completed, so we don't have a lot left to do inside of that particular box, other than start working, whatever we're gonna do on the inside.
That's what I would like to see. Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
Yep, no, I agree, and, so what we would need to do is just amend our earlier motion to encompass the whole thing and raise the threshold. And that way we've got an accurate cost for both of those facilities that we can compare and contrast to new construction that we have a fixed number on that. So how do I need to do that?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
being as this is Veteran Services and they're here and he's sitting there with his arms folded like that, mad, and I don't like that.
Alan always looks like that.
Okay, well,
That's
you know,
Alan's
they
normal,
work in that
sir.
Yeah,
area, so
exactly.
okay.
I think you're just making it a motion.
Yeah, almost sounded like one.
Oh, okay, well, let's try that.
Let's try it again.
So I would like to make a second motion to amend my first motion.
No, you can just add to, you
Yeah,
can just do it.
but anyhow, I want to increase that threshold. So we're looking at
100 grand.
100 grand. And that will encompass a study for both of those buildings.
Both buildings, yeah.
Yep. And then we have some good solid numbers and we can make a good decision.
Wow. It feels like the right thing to do, but it hurts at the same time.
That's right.
And, you know, it does. But you just want to do that so you may spend $100,000, like I said, to keep from making $1 million mistake.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and there's a second.
Mhm.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we'll get those going together and wait to hear back from staff. All right, Commissioner Pelletier, this is your baby on item number C. This is your ugly baby. Before we get started, Mr. Grimes, you
I
have some
just
comments?
would like to ask, and I sure don't want to keep y'all going, but there's only one little small piece of that building down there. Do you want us to throw it in on the design and make it office space as well while we're designing? Is bringing you back a proposal?
If you can bring it in for that 100 grand, we'll be good.
I just don't want to expand the project further than what you want, but I mean, we might as well do a design on the whole 9,800 square feet if
I
we're
agree
doing
with
it.
that.
If it's cost effective, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I told you, work your magic.
Are you gonna lead this conversation?
I can a little bit.
All right, so this is, county buildings.
Yes,
General
I've,
discussion.
some time ago asked for a list of, county-owned properties that we have and, are not on the tax rolls that possibly could be. And, there's quite a long list, of those properties. Some are just vacant land, some of them have buildings. It has come to my attention that we have an interest from a private entity that is, well, actually, they're a commercial organization that would be interested possibly in our highway patrol building across the river and renting for an extended lease, then with the option to buy at some point in time, possibly. So anything's on the table. Just something we need to discuss and decide what we want to do or how we want to handle it. I know that tower that is on that property belongs to the state of Florida. It can't be touched. This particular entity, that tower won't affect them. They wouldn't be interested. They just want to cut it up inside and make office space out of it. Or, yeah, office space as good as I'm going to share.
Okay, this is where you want to start at.
Well, can be, right?
Okay,
Just
all right.
get everybody's opinion, what they think.
All right, Commissioner Harvey, you recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, when we talk about county buildings and county properties, we have a long list. And like I said when I began today, we're going to have to eat this apple one bite at a time. We've got a lot to eat there. I think it's going to take multiple workshops to get through that. But I did bring up a long time ago, and I appreciate Commissioner Palacio, the FHP building over there does need something done. But keep in mind that we got stuff in there, and we're going to have to do something with that stuff in that building. So when that time comes, it's going to have to be cost effective for us to be able to build, move, house something to get that stuff out of there. It's going to have to be a lucrative deal for the county. But I just don't want to talk about that one building. I don't mind talking about it today, but I do think we need to start looking at that building and then the income producing buildings, the lands that we have being used under contract, the lands that we have that bring in revenue, the lands that we have that don't bring in we have a big apple here.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start cutting that up a little bit better. And I appreciate the first bite could be the FHP building. I don't have no problem with that. But the rent's going to have to justify us doing something with the stuff that's inside that building and moving the stuff. And I don't even know if Mr. Grimes, where we could move that stuff to, if we had a lucrative deal that somebody wanted to use it right now, where could we move that stuff? Or do we have to build another building, which I don't mind that. Let me say, if we took the rents from that building, build a building, use that money to pay for the building of the building, I wouldn't have that problem. But I need to know, I need some information from you, Mr. Grimes, of how do we accomplish that when we get there? So that's my comments, Madam Chair.
All right, before I go to Commissioner Alexander, I will say, if we look at any kind of a sale, lease, rent, whatever, there's a process that has to be followed, and that's per Florida statute. And so if you just can't take one entity's offer, you have to, I believe you have to put it out for bid, and then just like we did on when we sold the old Ronnie Clark building, and then there was a process, and there was a successful bidder in that process. So just keep that in mind when we're discussing county buildings and how we want to move forward. Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
I think it would be pertinent to let Mr. Grimes answer the first part of the question, and then
Okay.
I'll comment.
Thank you.
As we continue to speak about that building, I'd like to stay at the 100,000-foot level, if we could, please. For fire rescues side of that, we're gonna need about 3,000 square foot of air-conditioned space. Our other partner in there is going to need roughly about the same. So you're gonna need about 6,000 square foot of conditioned space to replace what's currently in that building. So that's, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, the piece of property behind the EOC's for sale that runs between the EOC and St. John's Avenue. The problem is it's bisected by a pond that neither one of us have any use for. I don't have use for the one on St. John's Avenue, but I could sure use the other additional 80 or 90 feet that goes behind the EOC. Would help me tremendously to have our operation from the building in East Palatka more centralized location to our staff, right? Because every time a firefighter needs bunker gear, we got to go to East Palatka to pick it up. So we don't have the space. So long term, that's a great plan, right? But I don't have it today. You know, I mean, we need the space because there is setbacks, right? I can only get within so many foot of the property line before I can expand. Can I expand the warehouse that we currently have out there and make 3,000 square foot of conditioned space and make it more efficient than what we have? Most certainly. But that operation would be much better in town, closer to the staff and the logistics people that have to pull the stuff out every day to keep our ambulances and fire trucks and stuff on the road. But it would have to be replaced. But absolutely, I'm game for that one. But the other partner in there is going to need space too, and it needs to be, yeah, he's going to need space.
What else is in that space?
That's why he's keeping it at the
Let's keep it at
100,000.
100,000 foot.
Okay.
No, understood. Yeah, we know what's going on. So you, as an entity, need 3,000 square foot of conditioned space.
Correct.
I didn't even know there was space behind here. How much do we have behind us?
No, EOC.
No, but
EOC
I'm just talking about if we had to have conditioned space, how
Oh,
much do we have?
That's probably 1,000, 1,100 foot back
That's
there
all we
behind
got.
us. Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. I'm just exploring options
I got
here.
you. Yep.
But, you know, the key factor on this is, you know, leasing the property. If we have a tenant that wants to go in there, not only are we going to recognize the revenue stream of that rent, but additionally, once you have a tenant occupied space, it reverts back to the tax rolls, and we can continue, and we can start collecting taxes on that, correct? Yes, so we start getting, we get a tax, we can tax them on the property, and we get the revenue from the rent. So that's a pretty significant amount of money, in my opinion, for property that's just sitting there holding storing stuff in. So I think it would behoove us to find somewhere to put that stuff and get that back out there.
All right. Commissioner Palatka, you're recognized.
The bid process, putting out bid only benefits Putnam County, because if we put it out for bid, and who knows, you might have 2 or 3 or 5 or 6, you know, hey, I'm interested, I want to lease that out. So certainly to the highest bidder, and that would benefit the county. As far as storage space, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Grimes, out there is great, but if we're not able to use the Pantry Pride building or leasing it out, put a partition wall in there and AC it, because I don't think that has to meet any kind of special codes, does it, to put AC unit in just to keep these items refrigerated or chilled that you want to take care of that's currently in the FHP building?
maybe I missed where that said the location, I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. If we're not able to use the Pantry Pride building to do, or lease out, or do anything with, put a partition wall in there for whatever space we need, put an AC unit to take care of that amount of space, and there's your storage space, because it doesn't have to be, we don't have to have bathrooms in there, do we?
I'm gonna have to lean on my friend, Mr. Wadeson, that's there in the front row.
I mean, I'm asking, I don't know.
He's doing everything he
Out there.
can to avoid
It's
coming
under
up here.
roof and it's dry.
No, I get it, but I mean, that's,
It's got
there again,
junk in it.
we're attacking that space, right? We're making
But it's-
progress inside that space.
Its current use is designated as
Storage.
storage.
Sure. I just don't know how much work he's gonna allow to go on inside that storage space.
Okay. Yeah, we can't hear you, Leah.
We don't mean to put you on the spot, but we don't have a choice.
The thing about that space is there were decisions made back in 2008 that kicked this issue down the road then. And now we've arrived. It's really difficult to make any maneuver in that space. We're against the wall when we got into the complex. And those were the conditions of the time then that we were facing, and it's kind of, this problem was kicked down the road, and now you're facing it. And so that space is appealing, but we barely even go in it right now. You know, if we start increasing that intensity, it's putting me in an awkward spot.
You can just say, we can't use that space. I mean, it's okay.
I think it'd be best to not use it. There may be some wiggle room, but for the most part, you know, it's best to not use the space. I think the whole idea in the first place was we weren't really supposed to use it in the first place. So like I said, very difficult decisions were made all those years ago, and this was what the commission faced at that time, was the cost of dealing with this property. And it was an exorbitant cost, and it's difficult.
So when the rehab for this space was done, it took us right up to that threshold of more than 50% of the space. Once we go past that, then we have to renovate this.
Yes, sir. As far as the other questions, we already have occupied space. Little modifications that are occupied are acceptable. And so all the discussion that we were talking about earlier, just want to make it clear, I said it from the audience, but I don't know if you heard me, that we were willing to do little things, little movers. It's business to business. We're not tripping major issues there. But that space down there becomes problematic.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Unreal to me.
Yep.
Commissioner Harvey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let's just play the game real quick of building a new building, 6,000 square foot. We know that's about 800,000 based on animal shelter. Animal shelter was 3,000 at 400,000. And the sanitation was 2,500 square foot at 400,000. So we're probably looking 6,000 to $1 million. Maybe 800,000. So if you lease the FHP building, and you'd be looking at around, and if you dedicated that money to a new building, so let's just play the game of 850,000, you're looking at $4,000 a month for 10 years, right? So with that in mind, I'd have to be able to justify to myself that, yeah, we're gonna build a building and we're gonna use that money to offset the new building. So I think it could be done, because I believe Commissioner Palatka is right. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in leasing that building, and $4,000 a month would not be an exorbitant amount in that area for that building. And then you take that money and dedicate it to a new building that satisfies the needs of the current tenants of the FHP building.
So you just picked that number because you were just doing math?
I'm sorry?
You picked that number because you were just doing easy math? Or where did you get the $4,000 a month?
Well, basically on mortgage calculator, I just kind of did the math on that of what a $425,000 loan for 10 years at 6% interest, I'm sure we could get a better
Okay.
interest
I
than
was just trying
6%.
to get where you were getting the.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
so-
you had a price per square foot based on rental space or
No,
what you were
just-
using.
No, I don't know what we could get on real estate. I mean, we'd have to put that out for bid.
But we will
See.
recognize the property taxes too, once that
So,
becomes a leased
well, I still got
property.
the floor, though. Let me ask you this. The vacant field out here, okay? I know the tree's sacred, but, you know. Okay, but, you know, it's old, trees are trees, but could we do something out there? If we wanted to build a new building to house certain things, could we use that building,
That land.
that land?
If we're building a new building for our uses, I mean, if we're strictly taking operations and moving one to the other, I'd prefer the EOC or out behind the main station off Ori Griffin Boulevard. Out by where Animal Services is. I mean, that would be the ideal location probably, is out there by our EMS main fire station and the sheriff's office. It would be probably the most utilized spot.
And we have enough room there to do that?
Y'all have 180 acres out there. I think we probably, yes. I mean,
Okay. I mean, some of it's wet in the back, but,
it is, but I mean, we moved the animal control facility because originally you guys were wanting to put it out on 17.
right.
So we moved it in. I mean, we've got more space behind it. I mean, you could absolutely pull it off, right? I mean, and it would really help both places, or you could just build onto our current station that's there. I mean, if we're talking about just an expansion, you may be able to build onto the back of it and move it further back and be able to justify both operations too. So there's just, I mean, there's a lot of things, but remember, if we decide to go down the route of getting rid of the FHP building, ours has to be done ahead of time.
Yes.
Right, so I have to be able to move my stuff out of there before we hit the leasing market, right? So we need to have that building built before we ever put that out for lease.
Somewhere to store it.
Understood. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Palacio, you're
I'll,
recognized.
I'll be brief. Did the square footage of FHP building ever get mentioned? Square footage there?
Sir, I'm gonna have to guess, and it's just truly a guess, about 6,000 square feet, I think is probably
Is it
what's
that
there.
big?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. It's
Okay.
pretty good sized building when you get inside of it.
Yeah, you can get a premium buck for that.
Yeah, and one thing to consider too, if we can only sell it one
I
time.
think you had the floor, didn't you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're not sitting on the tailgate, Josh. Something I'd like to see done that would just work better for any kind of storage or do anything is we have a world of junk in the Pantry Pride building that could be to the landfill. There's a bunch of old computers in there that the scrap man has told me he has interest in taking those off our hands for a fee that we'll get a little money for. But, you know, just clean the place out. It's just clutter now, absolute clutter. No, that's clutter.
Are
I'm
you done?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right,
Now
all right.
I relinquish my time there,
Okay.
Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Alexander?
No, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we can only sell it one time, but if we can get a continuous revenue stream through leasing it with a tenant that's acceptable for that,
Please.
we still recognize the tax benefit as well, being pulled back into the tax rolls. So we can lease it in perpetuity until it's such time that somebody makes an offer that we can't refuse and still collect the taxes. But we can find somewhere else to store that stuff. We've got property and we've got buildings.
Okay, Commissioner Newbold, you recognize?
And I guess this is just an adjacent can of worms. I think we went out to, did we go out to bid on the nursing home buildings? Has there been
List.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, you did good.
Any progress or update there?
Yeah, the board engaged us to get an appraisal, and we did engage an appraiser. They're in the process of trying to get through the appraisal process.
So,
I couldn't hear him. What'd you get in appraisal on?
The two
Nursing homes.
The two nursing homes.
so you're telling me there's not a whole bunch of nursing homes out there on the market? Is that what you're saying?
It's a very complex appraisal.
Yes,
It's
sure.
a specialized appraisal.
It did take a specialization in the field.
I'm sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. How did we obtain the FHP building?
So it actually reverted to us as part of the deed when FHP ceased operations in Putnam County. That building, once it was no longer occupied by us, was required by deed to revert to the county.
And is there any other language in that deed, or do we know, or can we look at, make sure we look at, to make sure that it doesn't, if we were to surplus it, that it doesn't go to another entity, or the funds go back to FHP, or the state, or something. Because we
happy to.
could be just all having a big discussion over something that we really don't have true control over anyway. So, okay. All right, so, further, your county buildings discussion?
Not at this time. I think we got enough on our plate. We might want to reel in the
No, it's a big discussion. Okay. Anybody else on the dais want to speak about county buildings? This was at the request of Commissioner Pelletier. He's already given what he wanted to say for
That's
now.
what I want to talk about for today.
Okay.
Madam
Sir.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
thank you for the opportunity. I do think I want to go back to my comment a minute ago. I think this has been beneficial, but this is just meeting one, if you will. I think we need to start looking at giving staff the direction of how do we want to go forward? Do we want to talk about the other buildings? What do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about revenue? Do we want to talk about vacant lands? But we're going to have to do this a little bite at a time because we've never done this to this extent. And I think it would be beneficial if we gave staff a direction. We don't have to do it today. We're fine today. We can do it at another meeting and just start whittling this stick down a little bit at a time. And by the end of the year, we'll have a pretty good idea of what we got going on. And, you know, in government, the end of the year is going to be here before you blink an eye.
Sure.
It'll be over with. And we'll be in 2027 before we know it. So I think that we just start at a future meeting, Madam Chair, that you could call. We could do another workshop, take another bite of the apple and do another bite of the apple and just move forward at that time. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wants to speak about county buildings? All right, commissioner comments. Anybody have commissioner comments? You good? Everybody's good on commissioner comments. All right. County attorney comments. County administrator comments.
No, ma'am, I believe we're good over here. Thank you.
Public comment on miscellaneous items. Is there anybody wishing to speak in the public? We'd called for public on, comment on agenda items. Is there anybody who wants to speak in the public? All right, seeing none, I believe this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I think that's going to be